Whenever something becomes old, not functioning at its best, we tend to consider two options. One is to discard it, and the other is to attempt to restore it. More and more in our world, we are looking at option one. But when it comes to the self, we would prefer to consider option two, to restore, renew, refresh, regenerate. How do you restore something that is not physical? That science cannot reach? Using non-physical tools to restore the self, I, the spiritual being, the powers of the mind, the heart, the will, my core values. Turning inwards is perhaps the most challenging step. Whenever it comes to refreshing, recharging the self, we start to go outwards. Look for a solution outwards. Maybe it's a change in profession, a change in relationship, a change in place. That first step of going inwards, time and again, is 90% of the effort. Physical restoration is from going outwards. But when it comes to the self, time and again I turn inwards, using the powers of my mind, of my heart, that is the power to understand, the power of my will, commitment, and the power of my core values, deep faith that I have the capacity, that this is most meaningful to me, the best use of my time. Putting all of these in place is a huge part of the effort. Once they are stable, restoration is inevitable. Om Shanti.
Om Shanti. Good evening to interview the Raj Yogi. And tonight's session is physical versus spiritual restoration. And so this topic has been my mind quite a bit. And perhaps sometimes the phrase I hear, sometimes actually in day-to-day conversations, is it possible to return back to innocence? Is it possible to get myself back again? So that's what brought up this topic here. But also for students of Raj Yoga, there is something that we learned in class, been about a couple of weeks ago, where we are we're like living beings, living diamonds, and so any kind of flaws inside, they can be removed. I found that very significant. That something physical, can you really remove it? In the commentary about anything physical, we're just used to discarding it. So I was wondering if you could share your thoughts, even just keeping it basic first. This aspect of soul consciousness, how it's so relevant to this aspect that I can actually change. Maybe it's not even just restoring, but I can change.
One of the, Raj Yoga looks so much at contrasts or pairs, two sides of the same coin is another term we use. And one of those is the idea of merging and emerging. So the concept being that things are always there, but sometimes they're emerged and sometimes they're merged. And so it's not that we're creating anything really out of nothing or out of new. We're simply focusing our attention, our awareness on what we want to have emerged. So, for example, as you're sitting there right now, you could focus your attention on becoming quiet, say on your heartbeat of the body. Now, it's been beating all the time. It's not that because I wasn't thinking about it, it stopped existing. But the moment that I focus, it's as if it's energized. And so it's almost like its presence is emerging. So, similarly, within us, we have what's called intrinsic or innate and what's acquired. And restoration, rejuvenation becomes something of concern when the acquired is completely overrunning the show and the innate or intrinsic seems completely dormant. In other words, we miss ourselves, as you said, want to get ourselves back. So now I'm going to have to focus on what's become dormant and use or focus less. So I'm trying to switch what's merged and what's emerged, simply using the power of my attention. So, or awareness. So it's a very, I think, reassuring practice because it's really what it's saying is it is there. It's simply merged. So I, with that faith or that deep recognition, the fact that I can even be pulled suggests that that experience is in there. I know what I'm looking for. I've experienced it before. So it's just become dormant or hidden behind some acquired things, things that are not innate to me.
So would you say that even though if someone is not soul conscious or conscious their soul, or that it's so preliminary in terms of their practice, just the faith that they're a spiritual being, that starting to really focus on those qualities, they can trust that it's actually still coming from the inside out? Because the constant concern I hear from many, many regular students, like, I don't even know if I'm still faking it, that I'm trying to be nice, or I'm focusing on these qualities. Like, where's the room in terms of soul consciousness before it becomes very technical?
We obviously talk a lot about signs and signals, and I'm actually doing it. So, top of the list is always if I'm really emerging a spiritual sense of self and all the qualities associated with that, they will be there at a time of need, at a time of challenge when tested. If we look at the other side, how, if you will, natural it's become to think of myself as a body. And I don't even have to make effort. It's just always there. So we know that that's one of the signs or signals that it's the mode in which I respond to things is a sign that I'm actually doing it. It's practically useful, which is why we do open-eyed meditation. But we also have the saying Om Shanti, Om Shanti, Om Shanti. So this is the core quality of uh, of soul consciousness. We even say it's a religion, is this deep sense of peace that has nothing to do with anything external. It's just a deep sense of well being. If that is what I'm experiencing, and we're so used to our feelings being dependent on what is outside, if I start to notice that's not happening anymore, whatever is going on outside, but I've got this deep sense of well being, of deep peace, then perhaps, yes, I'm on the right track.
What do you feel? And we know, in a sense, the obvious answer is, well, maybe for those who study Raja Yoga, is body consciousness. But this big hurdle in terms of anyone feeling that it's possible for them to change, it's possible for them to get that, that light back inside, that spark. Um, is it timing? Is it maybe it's someone new in the study and they want to feel that it's possible? And we know it's this umbrella of body consciousness, but is it, just through time that it's this realization in the soul that there's like this spark of hope that comes up? Because you can't really convince anyone in that sense of something that really awakens within yourself, but to really be able to really feel that from the inside out that change is possible.
Yes, it might be connected to timing, or sometimes we use the term disinterest, which is a readiness to explore a different way of operating, a different kind of consciousness. That sort of needs to be there. I kind of need to be on board. I had a fascinating conversation with someone, and I just found it so interesting that everything we were saying spiritually, it's not that in any way they didn't were disagreeing or arguing. They just thought it seemed pretty flimsy. Why do you think you're a soul? Why do you think you take rebirth? Why do you think we're intrinsically good? Um, and I really had no proof, if you will. I mean, I could say things. And when I began to realize the one thing that was very important to that soul, ironically, was the quality of their karma. They wanted to perform good action. Now, if we think deeply, you'd say, well, why? And this idea of cause and effect suggests that there is rebirth. But that aside, um, what's going to be important for them is to embrace a body of knowledge or understanding that supports that objective. And that was very much what I was discovering for myself. And I think it's really important. What does restoration look like to you? What does operating at your best look like to you? And for me, it was this idea of self respect, self trust, self confidence. So, any body of knowledge that supports that objective, I could really throw myself into. And pretty rigorous testing. I realize these are not physical objectives, things like self respect. So, I knew minimally it would have to be a spiritual body of knowledge. So, yes, it's timing, but also maybe just having that reflection within the self. What really is important to me, drilling right down to the core. Even if someone says, well, a portion, a big house, nothing wrong with saying that, they can ask him, well, why is that important? And it might be, I feel more valuable when you drill all the way down. So then we're cutting to the chase. Okay, so you want to feel valuable. Let's look at how that's possible.
In your personal journey, do you find that there were really significant, clear milestones? Did you find that there were certain signs and signals that you could feel yourself changing?
I was thinking about this yesterday or today while driving. What I realized, I went through a period in my teenage years. I think many teenagers find that a very radical time in their life of much upheaval. But I really felt an interesting, I remember feeling very sensitive and melodramatic. But at the same time, there was a deeper part of me that was really almost seeking self sufficiency or self independence, like a strength that this isn't really me being this sensitive and melodramatic, but I'm not sure what else to do. And there's lots of expectation that I behave this way, I suppose. Um, and so just reflecting and realizing that all of that isn't really there anymore. Um, Seeing that my responses to things internally, forget about what happened externally, but even just internally, the feelings, responses to things are changing. Like genuinely, it's just not disturbed. That's really what I keep an eye on. And yeah, to know that, yes, I'm actually doing the work, not just imagining it or intellectual, but I'm actually doing the work such that that transformation at the level of heart is happening.
It's interesting you were sharing just before your personal experience about any body of knowledge that enabled you to gain or restore that sense of self integrity, and you felt that it would really resonate with you. Just when you were sharing that, I was thinking about something that came up a lot during this retreat that you and I both were at. But and I believe it came up today in a sharing from a senior student, is being able to actually embody that body of knowledge, to be able to actually really live it. And what seems to be the dividing line? Like, what is it that's what is causing the struggle? Because I feel that at the heart of everyone, they do, they do want to change. Students do want to change, but they find themselves as if they've hit like a ceiling. Something seems to be, or being able to go deeper, to be able to assess that, am I is it still something that's very intellectual? Because the whole point of this session is that I am actually changing, and it's not just a lovely hope, but it's becoming reality.
And there's three qualities or efforts that um, summarize what we're trying to do that were identified from the very beginning. And the first one is renunciation, which in the West we tend to use the term letting go. That is the main problem, is that we are afraid of letting go. We are completely convinced it's connected to loss. Now, some say, no, I'm not afraid of letting go. Um, we will let go of things we selectively choose to that serve our desires, but that's separate from what we're talking about here. So I'm not able yet to fully experience the attainments that come from letting go. So I'm just stuck with, I know I should, you know, consider myself to be a soul and not identify with the image and not seek regard outside, not be affected by this. I know I should, but I haven't yet really let go. And it's that resistance to detaching that's really creating a ceiling. So until I'm feeling full enough, or if you will, tasted some other attainment from some other source. Until I do, I'm always going to have that kind of resistance.
So ultimately, letting go is that I still have, I'm actually holding on to something else because that's often comes up. It's like, well, how do I let go? Yeah.
Yeah, we always suggest that until I hang on to something else, I will not let go of what I currently am holding with all my might.
So it's interesting because there's also resistance from old habits and like, so I don't know if this is relevant, but whenever you use the hip flexors example in fitness, that there's certain parts of the body that just seem to fire so quickly, even if you don't want it to. And I remember hearing this from others. I mean, I have had the experience myself. The moments when I first came into the study, I hear the word meditation and I would just fall asleep. It's like, please just don't even use that word. But I wonder if, so is that a timing thing? Is it more than that? Is it not being able to see what's going on inside? Because it seems like everyone wants peace and happiness. But the means to be able to attain that, that's the part that seems to be, as you're saying, not being able to perhaps, follow the directions properly.
It's sort of fascinating how, because of desires, addictions, habits, whatever you want to call it, we really have some difficulty in recognizing what's beneficial for us. Um, so I'm just thinking about this young person who we're training with, crazy talented athlete. What they can master, their what we call their adaptation capacity, is very high. So what will take adults quite a few sessions to master, they'll get within a session on a second try. They have a very high adaptation rate. They are very competitive with their father, actually. But what the reason their father brought them is that this young athlete has inherited from her father a lack of flexibility and mobility, and it is now limiting her performance in her sport. Now, she is used to working very hard. She can do workouts that most adults cannot. So I almost have to sneak in. I do the things, a couple of things she likes, and I have to sneak in things that are actually beneficial for what her objective is. It's very hard for her to feel satisfied with just doing mobility and flexibility work. So I always have to kind of sneak it in. Now, if she kind of came and said, okay, so let's just work on flexibility, it would make life a lot easier and things would go more quickly. So I'm thinking a lot about one of the top students in the organization. Her name was Mama, and we're recognizing her this month, and how quickly she progressed in this study. And we were listening to one of the recorded classes from her that keeps staying with me of, that if you know something is harmful to you, you don't slowly, you just let it go, like if you know that it's bad for you, you don't just say, oh, I'll slowly, it's like, I want to get rid of this. It's making me sick. So she had a very good capacity to recognize what was beneficial, what was not, and to just get on with it. So she moved very quickly. Whereas we really struggle with this thing of what actually is beneficial. So it's slowing things down. It's slowing the whole restoration down. We're kind of two steps forward, one step back. So if it would be so clear for us what is actually beneficial, and we seem to still not fully discern what is good for us. And there's so many messaging out there, the classic conversation when we say, no, we don't eat garlic or onions, but garlic's good for you. I don't know, maybe it's good for your body. I have no idea. I even question that, but it's not good for me, the soul. when I get that, all these other things, but I have this medical problem, it doesn't matter. Once I understand what is beneficial for me, the soul, we're very, very attuned to pursue that which we think is an attainment or beneficial for the self. So we have to be very, really realize what is or is not beneficial.
I feel like you just opened the gates to a whole slew of questions, but we have so little time, no time. Perhaps maybe it is one question. Just in terms of what you were sharing, it seems like, okay, I'm using a very extreme example. Killing someone is like black and white, so clear. But like some of these subtle things, because you're saying, I mean, it has to feel so clear inside. What is going to be required for something to be so clear that I'm a soul, I'm not a body, so why should anything around me really affect my worth, etc.? It's not clear, and it's very ethereal, I suppose, abstract.
I suppose in some ways it comes back to that fearlessness that I'm open. I'm not so attached to certain beliefs. We have this saying, which was mentioned today, there's benefit in anything that's happening. So whether or not I figure out what is beneficial, things that happen are definitely going to correct. If I am doing something that's not benevolent, it will eventually be corrected. There's a limit to how long that can go on in the drama. Now, of course, I will just say, oh, this horrible thing happened to me. It was actually a correction to something horrible that was happening. We won't see it that way. But thank goodness that things can only go on for so long. How long in the world can we continue to kill each other? So there's going to be a limit. If I can't figure it out for myself, we're always shocked when we look at other people or countries. Goodness, can't they see what they're doing is wrong? And I would say, well, do I see the things that I'm doing that are wrong? Not necessarily. So there has to be some corrective measure built into this drama. So everything that's happening is beneficial. Sometimes we deeply believe that from our hearts. Sometimes we don't because it's not what I want. It's not what my desires are asking for, but it is beneficial for my spiritual restoration, for my spiritual development. Once that kind of gets, that can help a lot to discern, to see things that maybe I can't see on my own. Drama is giving me some feedback that what I'm doing can't continue. It's not beneficial.
Well, I think it goes back to then, as you shared about letting go. But I'm going to have to stifle myself because we're over time. So we'll have a wee little reflection.
Here it is. Om Shanti. No. At those moments when I'm very pulled, perhaps exhausted at the end of the day, and very happy to just sit quietly and out of that exhaustion, just let things go. That helps so much in coming close to the self, letting all the roles and responsibilities go, stripping all the layers away until I feel very close to myself. Just the point of me, I, the being, most important experience of myself. I, the soul, the living being, conscient being, peaceful being. That simple experience is more precious than all the diamonds in the world. To string together as many of those moments as I can in the day is very naturally restoring. my true self. Om Shanti.
Om Shanti. Thank you for joining with us this evening. Uh, in terms of sessions that are coming up, as usual, we have our online sessions for English as well as Hindi. World Meditation Hour is coming up next Sunday on Father's Day. So please stay tuned. You can come on site or online for Hindi, but it would be online for English. I'm not sure if there's really anything else that's happening for June that hasn't already started. So please visit the website. We do have a Learn Meditation in English at the Academy coming up on Saturday, June 22nd. And that's on the website, 12:15 to 1:30 p.m. And so all of that information you can find on calgary.brahmakumaris.ca, and all of the online sessions for the meditations are on YouTube as well as Instagram. Thank you for joining with us. Om Shanti.